send you something in writing, so.
Do we have any special intentions?
I would like everyone to include in their prayers two people from the city of Kenner who have died recently. One of them was Robin Houston, who died not too long ago after quite a long fight with a very debilitating type of cancer. And the other one is Miss Cheryl McCullough's husband, who also died this Sunday. And he's donating his body to research at LSU. Again, if you could all keep the families in your prayers, I'd appreciate it. Well,
Mike's dead.
you have one you want? And also,
Mike's dead.
right,
Royce.
and also we want you to continue, please, to pray for Mr. Mike Segura's father. He was a wonderful person who I happen to know, and we need as many prayers as long as we can to help us get through this tough time, and I know for the family it means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Let us bow our heads and remember we are in the presence of the Lord, God of all nations, Father of the human family. We give you thanks for the freedom we exercise and the many blessings of democracy we enjoy in these United States of America. We ask for your protection and guidance for all who devote themselves to the common good, working for justice and peace at home and around the world. We lift up all of our duly elected leaders and public servants, those who will serve as our president, as legislators, as judges, and those in our military and law enforcement. Heal us from all of our differences and unite us, O Lord, with a common purpose, dedication, and commitment to achieve liberty and justice in the years ahead for all people, and especially those who are most vulnerable in our midst. Let us be mindful what is written in Scripture in Hebrews 13, verses 16, 17. Do not neglect to do good and to share what you have. God is pleased by sacrifices of that kind. Obey your leaders and defer to them, for they keep watch over you and will have to give an account, that they may fulfill their tasks with joy, not with sorrow, for that would be of no advantage to you. For this we pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Councilman Conley, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'll make a note, ma'am.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. You have a quorum this evening. Councilman Klein is absent tonight. In accordance with Council Resolution B 14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones, pagers, beepers, and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting. Under the consent agenda this evening, we have item 1, approval of minutes, the regular council meeting of February 5th, 2015. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. We have none. Item 3 is approval of bingo and public gathering applications. Item 3A is application number 1866/15, Barbary Middle School to hold a public gathering on March 15, 2015, from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. for the purpose of a reunion at shelter number 1 at Veterans Park in Kenner, Louisiana. That concludes the consent agenda this evening, sir.
Motion by Councilmember Conley, second by Councilmember DeFrances. Council members, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Under the public appearance agenda this evening, we have item 9, public hearings for final passage. Item 9A is a public hearing regarding resolution number B16566, a resolution calling a public hearing to be held by the council for the city of Kenner to determine whether the structures located at 3009 Utah Street in Kenner, Louisiana shall be abated by repair, rehabilitation, demolition, or removal.
Motion by Councilmember Carroll, second by Councilmember Segura. Ms. Vallow, you have a,
Can I have a vote to open?
oh, sorry.
That's okay. Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0 to open your hearing.
Ms. Vallow?
And I have a presentation to put on.
Hang on, Amy.
The structure in question is a two-story, single-family pile supported slab foundation bearing the municipal address of 3009 Utah Street. The property is owned by Mr. Gilbert Bailey. On October 2nd, 2014, a notice was sent certified mail to the property owner advising him of the property violations. On December 22nd, 2014, Mr. Gilbert came in and spoke with me about what his intentions would be to correct the violations. He was advised that due to the severity of the violations, continued neglect could lead to the demolition of the property. On September 20, 2014, it was determined that the property located at 3009 Utah was unsafe and dangerous under the building codes of the City of Kenner, as well as Section 5-57 at all of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Kenner. Additionally, the certified building official made the determination that the property was more than 50% substantially damaged and would therefore have to be elevated at or above the base flood elevation before any building permit will be issued by the city. At the January 22nd meeting, Mr. Bailey was granted a two-meeting deferral. Mr. Bailey was given a notice to appear before this council on the 22nd day of January by hand delivery, for which he signed on December 22nd, 2014. It is noted by the report of the engineer retained by the City of Kenner, who provided the following reasons of inadequate maintenance, dilapidation, and abandonment. Utilities have been disconnected, piles of debris located throughout the property, visible signs of wood rot throughout the structure, a permanent roofing materials needs to be installed on the structure, and the temporary material is currently installed. The majority of the framing members, particularly at the joints in the roof structure, have leaks, thus causing the framing members to rot. This is probably due to the roofing material not being able to perform properly due to the unique shape of the structure. Existing wooden arbor and rear porch cover are in poor condition. The roof structure for the garage has signs of rot. Storage shed at the rear of the property is in poor condition. Based on the report of the engineer, the structure is a serious public hazard and structurally unsound. Furthermore, we recommend that the city take the steps necessary to declare it a public nuisance and have it abated by repair and brought up to current city codes and ordinances or demolished.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to come up and speak? If you would give us your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, gentlemen and lady councilperson. My name is Gregory Swafford. I'm an attorney, and I'm representing Mr. Gilbert Bailey. My address is 4734 Franklin Avenue in New Orleans. Councilpersons, we obviously are here because of the condition of this property, and it is Mr. Gilbert Bailey's intention to return to this home in Kenner and fully repair the property. We did have a structural damage assessment report done on the property. That report is dated January 20th, 2015, with attendant photographs by K. Crockett Designs, LLC, structural and civil engineering firm, that said that the property is structurally sound, that there is water intrusion in the property as a result of the permanent roofing materials not being present. But however, without a building permit, Mr. Bailey is precluded from going out and even making those kind of repairs. I think, gentlemen and lady councilperson, the bigger issue that Mr. Bailey is faced with here, obviously, is the issue of elevation of the structure. We get into that issue. We provided a base flood elevation or elevation certificate, which said that the property was some 1 foot below the base flood elevation, which makes it substantially damaged and having to be elevated. However, in our conversations with, well, first it started with Gilbert Kelly, who did the elevation certificate, who advised us that once the flood zone maps are redone, that the property at that particular time would be at a minimum, at base flood elevation. Now, the question is, how soon is that going to happen? That is something that I think that we all know is imminent throughout the area based upon the flooding we experienced as a result of Hurricane Katrina. Mr. Bailey has the financing. He's secured the financing to repair the structure. We have that here and prepared to place those documents into the record, where he has been approved the amount of $75,000 in construction financing and the permanent takeout financing after that to repair the property. Now, again, the question becomes, when are the flood zone maps going to change? Now, our position is that we know that this council is faced with the issue of making sure that these type of properties don't harm the city and don't harm the community. Mr. Bailey is here. He's taken substantial efforts to do what is necessary to apply for a building permit in this particular instance and secure financing. He not only has the intent, but now he has the present ability to fix this property. It would be a travesty, inequitable, to force Mr. Bailey to tear down the property at this particular time when we're faced with an imminent flood zone map change, which could theoretically mean that the property is no longer substantially damaged at that time. What we're asking the council to do at this time, respectfully, is to allow Mr. Bailey to correct the code violations on the property. He can't touch the property right now because he can't get a building permit. To allow Mr. Bailey to correct the code violations, to be able to stop the water intrusion on the property. Let us put a roof on the property and put siding on the property to at least get rid of that problem. And let's get a definitive answer from FEMA on what the flood zone map is going to look like for that property. Because again, like I said, it would be, the house is iconic to Kenner. It may be an eyesore right now, but it's an iconic structure, and I think that it would be a travesty to tear the property down if somewhere in the near future it'll become a non-issue based upon a new flood zone map. So we're asking that you give us a little time. We can go out or place it in the record, the damage assessment report, the letter of financing. These are not pre-approvals. These are approvals for the financing of the structure. I think Mr. Bailey has already provided code enforcement or safety and permits with the estimates from the 3 contractors that were required, and it's provided everything necessary to show a good faith, intent, and ability to move forward and get rid of this problem for the city of Kenner and get himself back in his home. This man is 75 years old. He just wants to get back home like everybody else. He's had some ups and downs and some problems, but he just wants to get back home to his property. And that's what we're asking. We're asking for a little time. Let's go to FEMA. Let's find out what definitively is going to happen. In the meantime, we'll make the repairs. We'll make the repairs to the property from the exterior, respectfully.
Thank you, Mr. Swafford. Ms. Vallow.
I need to correct Mr. Swafford. We are still in the appeals process with the new firm maps, the flood insurance rate maps, which may take another 15 to 18 months. And based on what the firm, for the purposes of if we accept the new maps, the base flood elevation in that particular area would be a -5 as opposed to a -3.5, so that would make him substantially more below base flood elevation. And let me kind of correct what the more than 50% substantial damage means is that if you have to expend more than 50% of what the current value of the home is, that means you have to comply with the new FEMA guidelines. FEMA requires, and it's my duty as the floodplain manager to enforce those regulations because it protects the other 60 to 70,000 residents with regard to their insurance. If I were to allow Mr. Bailey to go ahead and issue a building permit without him first elevating the property, I'm jeopardizing the rest of the city and our insurance rates when it comes to flood insurance. If Mr. Bailey elevates prior to, then we can issue a building permit for him to renovate the property. I also received a letter, an email from Mr. David Hegel, who is the Region 6 FEMA representative. He's the Natural Hazards Program Specialist. If I have the location correct, 3,000 Utah is between Mayfield Street and 30th Street, then the site is Zone AE. The base flood elevation is -3.5 per the firm dated 3/23/1995. That is the map that we have to use until a new map is adopted. And that may not happen for another 16 to 18 months, simply because we're still in the appeals process for Jefferson Parish. We've all collectively filed an appeals process to make sure that the numbers are correct. The site may change to Zone AE with a base flood elevation of -5 per the revised preliminary firm panel. So that even brings him lower than what he is right now. So to me, if we were to, he also indicates, and he had informed Mr. Bailey, that in the event that he wanted to try and get some type of variance to go ahead and do the renovation without elevation, he would have to talk to the zoning board, the BZA. However, my position, again, would be, is we're jeopardizing everybody else if we allow that to happen, because everybody, once a structure is more than 50% substantially damaged, they need to comply with the base flood elevation. So at this point, my position is still that the house must be demolished.
Thank you. Councilmember Carroll, did you want to? Oh, I got you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Ms. Valot, Mr. Swafford. And 2 weeks ago, as we said, we deferred this particular property to be able to get additional information. I'm pleased that Mr. Bailey and Mr. Swatford were able to get which I requested, the financial information to show good faith that you would be able to repair the property. Because if you could not, then it's a moot point. Then obviously we would have to move on. I was unaware of the base flood area situation, either because of my ignorance or just not asking the questions about it. So this is something new today that I have received. Mr. Bailey's presentation said that it's 1 foot. Ms. Valot said with the information that is -5. Is that, yeah, correct.
Okay, right now, he's about, give or take a few inches, he's a foot below the base flood
Below,
elevation, which
okay.
is -3.5. If we adopt within the next 18 months, which it's still in flux right now, the new preliminary firm maps, that area would be -5. So that would be substantially lower than what it is currently now.
So, Mr. Swat, are you aware of these regulations that Ms. Valot are speaking to? You mentioned a number, and she's saying, well, even if, because your question was if the maps are going to change, but as opposed to going in your favor, she's indicating that it is going against your favor. Are you aware of these?
I am, but it is not my understanding that is conclusive, nor it is my understanding that and experience that it necessarily will be 16 to 18 months. Those things are uncertain at this particular time. And so, I understand the position of code enforcement, but obviously we take issue with that. We don't believe that it'll be 18 months, and we don't know where the map is going to land. So, again, like I said, we would love to be able to get some definitive statement from FEMA regarding that, and at that particular time, act accordingly. But at this time, I think that nobody really knows where it's going to end up, and Mr. Bailey's property is just going to be a casualty in that process. And that's really what we're trying to avoid.
Right, and I can understand that, and that's what I'm trying to get my arms around. That the information that the director has shared is not written. It's not a law. There's nothing that we can say. This is how it's going to be. Nor what you're saying that it's going to change. So, and it may take another year or 18 months to really determine that it will change, based on our conversations here. And that's where we're at right now. which is the most important thing, the safety for the neighborhood. So it would be a shame to tear the house down if it would change and it would be in your favor. It is good for me to hear that you have the finances to do the changes or repairs, renovations to the home right now. But the concern from code is if we allow the construction to be done without the flood regulation, which is in place today, would be, in their opinion or their professional opinion, a hazard to the city. Did I phrase that correctly, or do you understand what I'm saying, or do you disagree with it? And if so, please let me.
Obviously, I mean, I'm clear on what you're saying, and I definitely disagree. From an anecdotal standpoint, I was faced with this, I had experience with this, faced with this same situation, different location, Orleans Parish, okay? We got a house sitting on a slab, just much like Mr. Gilbert Bailey's house. Got a house sitting on a slab, flood zone said, get the elevation certificate, flood insurance comes back at $5,000. That's the premium, okay? Congress acted in about 5 months. We were sitting around waiting on maps. 5 months from the time that we got that flood insurance quote, Congress acted and that flood insurance was dropped. The zone was changed and the flood insurance was dropped and the premium became about $500. It went from $5,000 to $500. So again, that's Orleans, that's not Kenner, but that is FEMA, and that is the speed with which this could happen, or it could happen like Ms. Vallet says in 16 to 18 months, but we don't know. And again, 3009 Utah becomes the casualty in the process. All we're asking, we understand that this property is a problem for the city of Kenner. Let us take away the facial part of it. Let us fix that. We can do that. A roof, Kenner, you need a building permit to put a roof on a house in Kenner. Understood. Let us do that. And let us see what's going to happen. We're prepared to do whatever is necessary. But I think that right now, the elevation issue, as it currently stands, it takes him out. It's a foregone conclusion. It's like a taking almost. It takes him out. There's nothing he can do with that.
And Ms. Vallout, and as far from a safety standpoint, what are the major concerns? If by chance the roof was repaired and any type of structural damages were repaired and no one was living there, from a flood situation, what are the major concerns that we have with this property?
Well, again, the major concern is that because right now, we have to go based on what the flood maps that we're currently using. Again, the pre-firm maps have not been adopted, so I have to use what we have right now, and that's a -3.5 elevation. So I can't grant him a permit without him first elevating that property, to even renovate the property. If he were to use those funds to elevate the property, at or above the base flood elevation as it stands right now, -3.5, he would be fine to do so. And if I can invite my chief building official to come up and explain further to you, that he might be able to shed a little bit more light on
Please
it
do.
as well. And that's Mr. James Mohammed.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council. Just to let you know, there's been 2 previous building permits issued for this property with nothing done. I'm a firm believer that if you guys do not vote to tear the structure down, nothing's going to get done now, because it's continued to happen, and I don't see where Mr. Bailey's going to move forward. The problem we have is if we issue him a permit now, today, we're violating the community rating system that the city of Kenner is a part of. That it affects 70,000 other citizens, not just Mr. Bailey, but 70,000 other people. Everybody else's flood insurance can go up, or we can get kicked out the program. We'd be violating that, and it's something we cannot do because we have to protect everybody. As you know, code enforcement is to protect and serve. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to protect everybody in the city of Kenner and serve them properly.
Thank you.
And I'm sure I never, and I hope I never implied that we would want to do anything that's against the current rules. We would never want to do that. But it is good to hear the information that you have. Mr. Swafford, have you or Mr. Bailey considered, because Mr. Muhammad stated that before there was 2 permits. I'm not sure if he was aware of any type of funding now that's available that has been procured, which is different than the other 2 times, which shows that there would be a different mode to take if it was granted, because you have the funds, correct, which is different than what Mr. Hamid stated. Now, that is different. But has there ever been any consideration as opposed to using the funding for the elevation? And what elevation would it have to meet, Ms. Valot, if that was something that they would consider?
He would have to elevate, if he were going to elevate now, he'd have to elevate to -3.5 or above 3.5.
And what would happen if the maps came back and it was, like you stated the first time?
The -5, and I need to correct myself, -5 would be a better number for him. It would work in his favor. However, we don't know whether that is going to be adopted, when it's going to be adopted. So we are bound by federal law to use the flood rate map that's in place right now, which is the 1995 map, which designates the BFE there, the base flood elevation, at -3.5. So if you were to elevate the house to -3.5 or above that, we could issue a building permit to him to restore the rest of the house.
And just hypothetically speaking, suppose the maps came back and he was not where he needed to be, would he then have to?
He would, again, you have to, because we're with the base flood elevation at that point, that's what we have to use. So if that changes 2 years down the road, he's still good, because at the time that the renovation and the elevation was done, that was with the base flood,
right.
the BFE for that period of time.
And like I said, has it ever been a conversation that you or Mr. Bailey had concerning using the funds for that, Mr. Swatford?
Well, Councilman Carroll, the funding that's available to Mr. Bailey is just enough to repair the property. When it became obvious, or when we came into the knowledge that once the flood zone maps are revised, that he might not have to elevate the structure, we didn't look into that. And given the value, to be honest, we didn't. And given the value of the property, no one would loan him the money, because that would be above, it would be too thin. It would be too thin. There would be no equity for the lender in the property in case something went wrong with the loan. That's looking at it like a lender, okay? But obviously, Mr. Carroll and council, this building is not in any imminent danger of collapse at the present time. It's not going to fall on Mr. Bailey's neighbors. Mr. Bailey keeps the property clean. There's no trash or debris in the property at this time. The property is secured. We'd love to stop the water intrusion on the property, but again, we're precluded from touching the property.
Right.
So, you know, I mean,
And that's where we are falling at, because of the law, the rules. The code department are bound or held to administer the rules what they are today. As far as the facade of the building, there are some concerns that has to be addressed by looking at the pictures, either from a safety standpoint, from a standpoint of the neighborhood, of people possibly going in or doing certain things. We all understand that, and that's not the biggest concern I have right now. The concern is, one, the base flood elevation, which is right now the property does not meet. You have funding that could be used, but then it becomes a question of repairing the overall total. But, you know, and I'm not trying to force you to make a decision right now, but that is where we are right now with the base flood, and that has to be addressed. I would love to hear tomorrow that the numbers came back and you were good to use the money, but who knows if that's going to happen. And we have to ensure the area is safe for everyone involved. I'm not sure when we're going to get these numbers back. I do know hurricane season is in June. And for us and for people who live in the southern part of Louisiana, that is a concern always. And that is something we have to be concerned with. We don't know when it's going to come. I don't have a problem calling and get a better idea for it. But I cannot see it going past the hurricane season without any definite information. And Mr. Muhammad, yes, please.
Mr. Carroll, just so you'll know, that if we get a strong wind, there's parts of that structure that's going to fly, maybe in your backyard or my backyard, or it could hurt one of our kids in the backyard. That structure is coming apart. I'm going to advise you to take a little time and think about this. You really need to take that structure down tonight. You're not only going to affect Mr. Bailey, but you could be putting danger and harm's way of somebody else. You know, you don't want to hurt anybody else.
No, of course not.
And again, when we first issued those first 2 building permits to the structure, it was not nearly as bad as it is today. It's gotten more and more, it's deteriorated more from lack of maintenance and being watertight. And it's only going to get worse, especially with the April rains that are getting ready to come. You know, just as good as I do, it rains almost every day in April. And there's not going to there's not going to be any work that's going to be able to be done in April. So you need to really take in consideration that. I'm asking you to think about what you're going to do tonight.
Yes, and that's why we're having this discussion, and I appreciate that. And, you know, that's why we want to be able to voice our concerns that we have as it relates to not only for the property owner, but for the people in the surrounding area. And that is a priority also. As far as Ms. Valad, as far as if we were to vote to go forward with it, how many days legally by law do we have until it is have to be started? How many days?
I believe it's a 17-day layover. He has a right to appeal if you make a determination that you want to go ahead and demolish. I believe he has 5 days within which to appeal it. After that 5-day period, then we have the additional, so it would be 17 days before any action would be taken. And right now, it may take longer because we subcontract with Pipeworks to do our demolition, so it may take time with Pipeworks to actually bring the house down.
Right. Well, so it would be within 5 days of the 17 days, if in a perfect world. If
I would estimate, yes, within 18 days, but I think that's, we did one for Connecticut, and it's taken a little bit longer. We have a 17-day layover by law. However, it also is contingent upon our contractor when they're available to go and do the actual demolition.
So, Mr. Swafford, as far as the ability to be able to appeal it within a 5-day, were you aware of that also, that is an option that you could have also?
Well,
to appeal it within 5 days?
Yes, Mr. Carroll. I mean, we're fully aware of what the law provides, and I take issue, I understand the position of the chief building inspector, I certainly take issue with the alarmist type of approach as portrayed. But yes, we are aware of what the law provides. What I would respectfully request, though, is that we would reset this matter for the next hearing and get a definitive answer from FEMA on where exactly the flood zone maps are going to end up. Because that's the $1 million question before us today. I know the code enforcement would like to portray that the $1 million question is to demolish or not to demolish. But I submit to this council that the $1 million question is, what's going to happen with those maps? That's the issue. What's going to happen with the maps? And there is straight uncertainty about that. Nobody's got a definitive answer. I'll submit to you, I don't have a definitive answer. And listening at code enforcement, they don't have it.
But even with, if we would agree for the deferment for one more meeting, that is less than the 17 days. So nothing would start before the next meeting. if it was deferred even, because it would be more than 18 days.
With all due respect, Councilperson, I mean, legal delays in beginning that process is a whole nother ballgame. Obviously, that's something that we can do, but we would prefer not to have to do that without a definitive answer, because a definitive answer might preclude the necessity of doing it either way. So,
And what I have formulated my conclusion is, obviously, the code department, the code people are our professionals. It is our obligations to listen to their opinion. That's what we have to go on, not only for Mr. Bailey's property, but for everyone in the city. It is important that we don't compromise their opinion, because I think things start to get array when that happens. So I believe I am bound to listen to, whether you agree with it or not, Mr. Muhammad's opinion about the safety aspect from his years of experience and as it relates to the neighborhood, which means you still have an opportunity to appeal it. Nothing will happen before 18 days. You get the 5 days to appeal it, to be able to take it to the next level if we have to. Based on the law, I think my hands are tied based on what the law is right now. And it does give you another option to be able to appeal it within 5 days. We can assure you nothing will happen within 18 days, and that gives us almost more than a deferment. It does give us more than a deferment. So, based on that, I think that's going to be my recommendation, to, by the number of days allowed by law, that we vote to, demolish the property, given the number of days he will be required, and hopefully that you are able to, on behalf of Mr. Bailey, to file the appeal to see exactly what additional time, and that will give us an additional time for us to contact FEMA. I personally will contact. I would like for you to see exactly what direction that is going, and to give us a better feel for the overall maps for that area.
but it becomes a moot point at that point, Councilperson, if there is an appeal pending. The issue of the flood zone maps is of no import at that point. At that point, what becomes important is what occurred today in this hearing.
Well, today is important. I think it's important to be able to follow the law, and that's what I think we are held to do. We are following the law based on the code recommendation. We are following the law based on the flood elevation. We are following the law by putting it out 18 days. We are following the law by giving you the opportunity, Mr. Bailey, to appeal it. So that all of that is within the law, and that is what we were going to have to do today to be able to go forward and give us an opportunity to hopefully vet more information. Because listen, the last thing that I would want to do, anybody up here wants to do, is to not afford people to be able to come back to the city of Kenner. It's important that people do, but bear in mind, we have to also be aware that safety is always evident. So that's going to be my recommendation to my colleagues, that given the 18 days, the recommendation to tear it down with the 18 days allowed by law, and for code, if they can, to get some further information from FEMA, if you will, please, to support not only this property, but overall for the citizens of Kenner. So unless you have anything else, Mr.
At this time, I'd like to enter into the record here our damage assessment, structural damage assessment report, which says that the property is structurally sound as of the date listed on the report. Also, I would like to enter into the record the financing for the rehabilitation of that property, as well as the elevation certificate by Gilbert and Kelly.
So, Madam Clerk, it doesn't have to be read. You can officially put it in the records. And I'd like to make a copy, or get a copy made.
Those are for the record.
For the record, okay.
Those
So
are
I'll
for the
be
record.
able to share with my fellow colleagues, and we'll be able to keep it for the record. Thank you, Mr. Swafford.
Thank you, Councilperson.
And I will be talking to you tomorrow, and hopefully we can, do something to support Mr. Bailey further. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, sir.
You done, Councilman?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. I have a question. Well, actually, I have a couple of questions. The building permits that were issued prior, the reason 2 building permits was because our building permit is good for 6 months at a time?
Correct. I believe one permit was issued in 2007, and, I'm sorry, 2005, and one in '07? And '08. And at that time, had the work been done, he probably wasn't going to have that issue, and there would have been grant money in order for him to elevate like everybody else in the city of Kenner did once they had that more than 50% substantial damage estimate. And with regard to Councilman Carroll's question with FEMA, the email that Mr. Hegel, who was the FEMA 6 representative, the preliminary firm is now in the appeal resolution phase. Thus, I am not able to predict when the firm will be revised, nor can I predict the final floodplain information. Our community rating system, our users group is called JUMP, Jefferson United Mitigation Professionals. We have collectively issued an appeal to FEMA with over 300 issues regarding this very firm that hasn't been adopted yet. So there's a process that I can't predict, nor can FEMA. They have to go through each one of those questions one by one. So it could take some time for them to go through each of these issues. But so I am therefore bound by the 1995 flood insurance rate map, which gives the base flood elevation at negative 3.5. Sure, I'll have to make you a copy.
Okay, Councilwoman DeFrances, you have the floor.
I have a quick question, Ms. Vallow. I noticed that you mentioned that there are 2 previous permits that were issued a while ago, correct? One was
Yes.
at least 6 months, maybe a year ago?
No, 2005 and
2005, okay.
2008.
I thought it was, one was even,
No, 2005 and 2008.
okay, so there were 2, one in 5 and one in 8. Let
Yes,
me ask
ma'am.
you another question, and correct me if I am incorrect, please. If it is less than 50% damaged, okay?
You would not have to elevate, okay.
My point exactly, I wanted to put that on the record, that if the house was not more than 50% damaged, even though they're below the flood elevation where they need to be, above, I mean.
Correct.
That they would not have to raise the home, is that not correct?
Correct. Now-
And so I have another point, please, let me ask and see if I'm correct. Perhaps, and I can't because I don't know, but if I'm going all the way back to 2005 and 2008, since 2005 and 2008, if nothing was done, a house would continue to deteriorate. Am I correct?
Correct.
And is it possible, I don't know, is it possible that because of this big time lapse from 2005 to now, which is 2014, that perhaps in 2005 or 2008, if some of the work had been done when the permit was granted, the house would not have been more than 50% damaged?
Correct.
So if the work had been done then, we would not be here today trying to demolish the house.
Correct.
I just wanted to make sure I was correct.
And one other note, Mr. Bailey's counsel had submitted into the record an appraisal that was done. However, that appraisal was based on the repairs being done. It's not based on what the condition of the property is right now. And that would be what we'd have to work off. The appraisal that has been submitted is based on all the work having been performed. So that I need to give you that caveat with regard to that appraisal.
Thank you. Sir, can you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Gilbert Bailey. The address is 3009 Utah, which is in question. I would just like to share with the council my situation and why I'm here today. Well, basically, I built that home in '82. I took sick right before Hurricane Katrina. I went to Minneapolis, and at that time, my driver's license had expired, and I got driver's license from Minnesota. When I tried to get money from FEMA based on the damage to my house, I wasn't able to do it because I had changed my address, not knowing that it would take me out of that category to have my house repaired or raised. so I fell through the cracks at that time. Presently, I've opened my business in Jacksonville. I have now an opportunity to repair my house. And that's why I'm here now, trying to see what I can do to get my house done, because when this council started, we started with a prayer, and I pray every day that I can come home. And based on the law, as it was with FEMA, and now today, it's seeming like I'm gonna fall through the cracks again. So, if y'all can consider my council, what we had trying to get done so that I could come home, I would certainly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Council Member Impostata. Oh, you got it.
Somebody else.
Hey, you're on.
Mr. Bailey, were you able to receive insurance money for the damage to your home?
No, I didn't have insurance. I had taken sick prior to Hurricane Katrina.
All right.
So I wasn't able to claim on the insurances with FEMA. And I have been ill for a long time, and I just now, if I had not had my health today and my business up, I wouldn't have had the money to do anything that we presented for us for the all of the documentation that we submitted.
Since 2005, how much of your money have you spent repairing that house?
I had 2 building permits after the Hurricane Katrina. I had to renovate the house. I had to demo all the sheetrock because I was in Minneapolis, and the house got damaged and mold was everywhere. So I had to gut the house out. I spent $25,000 repairing the roof and the rotten wood that was in there at that time. And since then, I was unable financially to do anything else until just recently since I opened my business. So therefore, since then, anytime that I had a complaint, I always corrected it. I never gotten any notice that my house was in a blighted stage until I recently got this document to come to the board hearing today. And since then, I've tried to make preparations to show my intent to fix my house because I love to come back home.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
Okay.
Okay, seeing no other discussion, motion by Councilman Carroll, second by Councilmember Segura to close public hearing. Council members, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0 to close your hearing.
Motion by Councilmember Carroll, second by Councilmember Segura on the legislation. Councilmember Carroll, did you want to? You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, it's my recommendation that we vote to demolish the home, giving the appropriate number of days for the property owner, and that's what I am recommending and asking for your support for the demolition.
Thank you. Hearing no other discussion, council members, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 10 is opening of bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification for zoning for final passage. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. Item 12A is summary ordinance number 11,818, an ordinance rescinding and repealing ordinance number 10,272 and reenacting provisions amending section 13-71 of the Kenner Code of Ordinances to regulate smoking at outdoor playgrounds and recreation facilities.
Motion by Councilmember Impostata, second by Councilmember Reyno. Councilman Impostata, you have the floor. Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to make clear that everyone who hasn't looked at the actual language of this ordinance knows this is not changing the current state of the law for the city of Kenner concerning smoking at outdoor recreational facilities. It will remain regulated to specific areas designated with appropriate signage for those areas that are away from spectators and the players on the fields of these outdoor places. This was really to clarify or correct a typographical issue, if Mr. Powers wants to address that issue. But I just want to make sure everyone is clear and understands this is not removing the prior restrictions. It is keeping that restriction still in place, but taking care of a typographical issue.
Mr. Power?
Thank you. Mr. Impastato is correct. When ordinance 10,272 was originally adopted, the wrong section number was given in the ordinance, and we've had difficulties with the Municipal Code Corporation putting it in our Code of Ordinances. This ordinance simply corrects the typographical error, and it will be incorporated in the code. It doesn't change the law, it just puts it in the right place in the code.
Thank you. Councilman Impastato, okay. Councilmember Carroll, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Maricoli, would you please step up, sir? I have just a couple of questions. Thank you, Mr. Maricoli. And relating to the change, which is something we're doing from housekeeping, but as it is now, do we have the proper signage as it relates to the playground, the tot lots, or any recreational facility to designate specific areas for the smoking and non-smoking?
No, we have to make those signs available and put them up.
And this would be for all of the facilities within. About what's the time frame, do you think? Is something we have to order, or will we do that in-house, or?
Well, either way, it'll take time to get them done, probably a month or so.
Okay. Would you just please get back with us when the signs have all been posted?
Okay.
And that way we will know to be able to pass it on to the community. So in the interim, what do we do when we have tournaments and things going on? Are the supervisors aware of the correct number of yards they have to be away from to designate people not to smoke in these areas?
We at this point, we don't, the supervisors are aware of the different areas and different places that we would prefer, but again, when we put up the signage, it'll make it clear and there'll be no question for, for anybody that goes out there.
Okay, I just want to, even though we're waiting to get the signs, just to make sure that when people come, they understand that, we don't want the hazard to be around people
Correct.
or the children and stuff like that. So, with Godspeed, hopefully we get the signage up to be able to designate from this time forward. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussions, council members, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Mr. Chairman, this evening we received the request to defer items 13, indefinitely defer item 13A through 13H. In globo, please.
Motion by Councilmember Reyno, second by Councilmember Conley. Council members, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We had none. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 11,819. An ordinance approving an increase to the annual expenditure limit established for the purchase of ammunition from Barney's Incorporated, Barney's Firearms, utilizing state contract number 409716 for the Kenner Police Department.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, second by Councilmember Reyno. Seeing no discussion, council members, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 15B is summary ordinance number 11,820, an ordinance approving amendment number 2 to the engineering agreement with Hartman Engineering Incorporated regarding Kenner Hansen City Sewer Lift Station improvements for LS 4102 Airline Drive through /Minden and LS 4103 Firehouse Road, which increases the maximum cumulative fee to $225,271.90 in order to modify the task 2 of the scope of work to include additional design and supplemental services with an increase in the agreement in the amount of $10,344.90.
Motion by Councilmember Carroll, second by Councilmember DeFrances. Councilmember Carroll, you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Gonzalez, I just would like to ask, as far as the schedule for this particular project, where are we as it relates to completion for this?
The project is still under design. Based on the contents of this amendment, we're going to go ahead and be able to finalize the design. Hopefully, we can bid the project within the next 6 months.
6 months, and once that's done, to complete it, whenever we start, we're looking at 3 months, 4 months? What
Well,
is
we
the-
haven't established a contract.
We haven't
Construction
established that.
Contract time, we haven't established that yet.
Okay, so based on other work like this, what has been the normal time for start to end of the project?
The normal time for start to end on a simple sewer lift station is probably in the neighborhood of 8 to 9 months. Now, this is not just improvements to a sewer lift station. We're also going to be laying a brand-new sewer force main for quite a long distance. So this project could very well be a 12-month project.
Okay, well, thank you, sir, and just keep us informed of the status once the contract is let in to go forward. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, seeing no other discussion, council members, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 6-0. Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is an ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of a planned unit development for the East Jefferson Levy District Administrative Complex located at Kendale Park, Centanni, and Old Kenner subdivisions, Kenner, Louisiana, and to provide for related matters, PUD 09-14. Item 16B is an ordinance approving and accepting the servitude by the heirs of William Mason Smith to the city of Kenner across a portion of West Napoleon Avenue, Canal Number 4, right-of-way, Highway Park subdivision for installation and maintenance of sewerage facilities for the 10th and Maria Street lift station and Forest Main Sewer Improvement Project. Item 16C is an ordinance approving and accepting a servitude by Bell South Telecommunications, LLC, doing business as AT&T Louisiana, to the city of Kenner on a portion of Plot A, Square 159, Kenner Heights subdivision, for installation and maintenance of sewer facilities for the 10th and Maria Street lift station and Forest Main Sewer Improvement Project. Item 16D is an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Signal Equipment Company South for the purchase of traffic signal parts as needed in accordance with seal bid number 15-6254 in the amount not to exceed $75,000 per year for the Department of Public Works. Item 16E is an ordinance establishing a policy and criteria for the construction and maintenance of subdivision and/or neighborhood entrance signs and structures. Item 17 is reports from the council and our special committees.
Okay. Want to put your light on? Councilwoman DeFrances, you have the floor.
Actually, I'm not sure, we could have probably mentioned it later. There's a state wrestling tournament, by the way, headlines this weekend in Kenner, which is a really top high school wrestlers in the state will be competing in the LHSAA State Wrestling Tournament at the Pontchartrain Center through Saturday. The action begins from 5 to 9:30 p.m., continues 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. both Friday and Saturday. The tournament is in halls A, B, and C of the Pontchartrain Center on Williams Boulevard. The cost is $10 per session with a $35 pass, which allow you to all the matches all 3 days. And so we wanted to mention that, as well as now on Saturday morning, the Kenner's Farm and Market will be open, offering fresh fruit and vegetables. It's every Saturday, not just, a few Saturdays during the month. And we went out there, myself, my husband, and I, so we encourage people to support our Kenner Farmers Market, so it'll continue to expand. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember DeFrances. Council Clerk,
Yes, sir.
that's it.
Item 18 is new business. We have none. Item 19 is unfinished business and/or motions to reconsider or remove from a tabled position.
We have none.
Item 20 is persons wishing to address the council on special subject matters.
Mr. Al Morella.
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 43 years. I know 13A through H has been indefinitely deferred, but I do have some comments anyway. 13A, I want to say this, if you all are going to look at enforcing the term limits on a district by prohibiting a petition to serve a third term, I think what you need to do, since we don't have any true term limits back here now, what you need to do is take a look at after 2 terms, and no matter which seat it is, the individual should have to sit out the next election cycle before they're eligible to run again. I think you need to do that if you're looking at, prohibiting a petition for a third term. Now, F, G, and H, if we ever have any money for pay raises, I think the people that should get the pay raises should have first consideration is our people, our employees who cut the grass, who maintain our parks, who work very hard for a living, who don't enjoy any perks, who have to pay part of the insurance themselves on a very, very, what I call, sad salary. So that's all the comments I have on that. Now, Councilwoman DeFrances, at the last meeting, I had asked about the information on the people who own Basecraft in the city of Kenner, affiliated with the movie productions that's been taking place back here, and there's another one that just wrapped up, Silver Screen Rentals. I'd like to get some information on them, too. They may be intertwined with Basecraft. I don't know. So if you could give me that information, I'd appreciate it. Anybody got any comments? One more thing before I close. I want to extend my condolences to the Segura family on your loss, Councilman Segura. Anybody got any comments, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morella. Next up is A.J. Giordano.
A.J. Giordano, 3518 California Avenue. First, I'd like to say I'm glad to see that the council voted on that blighted property, because I believe the city has to get more aggressive on this situations. Okay. What I came up here tonight was to ask maybe somebody to put forward with a motion to a public hearing and discussion on 2 items, ordinances changes. One is 9.5.7 on the it's about this clearing your sidewalks, the grass, edging and all, and fences and so on. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe there's anywhere in the section that says how much before the city gets involved, as far as, just like you do on grass height, it's 7 inches. This one, I would ask that it be set at 5, 6 inches of some kind of guideline, that the city give them a little more to work with on the, and also maybe to move this ordinance over into the same ordinance where the grass cutting, or not in this, because it was a hard time finding this when we originally tried to find it, That's one I'd like to see about trying to change. Somebody put forward that change, just to amend it, saying that, grass up to 6 inches or 5 inches, it has to be cut. And the other one is on the sidewalks where residents have to repair their sidewalks. I believe at this time, it's the way it states in there, there's no actual set point that if there's a deviation over a certain amount, or, an inch and a half or whatever, to put some kind of specific amount in there if the sidewalk is deviated by a certain, or too much, that it kind of clarify it up. That's those 2 items. I wish somebody would try and look at this and maybe put it forward for a motion to change, kind of bend them a little bit, clarify them. Any questions, Lee?
That's it? You still have a minute?
No, I'm good. That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm getting a little faster at this.
Thank you, A.J. Yeah. Councilmember DeFrances.
Thank you. Mr. Morello asked for some information, and I did look into it and got as much information as I could about Basecraft in Kenner. Their mailing address, their principal business office, their registered office is in in Kenner and in Louisiana. Their financial business establishment is here as well, and the address is on Palisade Street. So that's right near past the airport. So that's the area we're talking about. You asked about the ownership. The registered agents are, and actually the owner is a Mr. Jeffrey Gowing, because when you look at Basecraft, it also says it's doing business as Jeffrey Gowing. The kind of business they do basically, and this is all public knowledge, this is on the Louisiana website, so it's not something I'm talking about here that no one else would have access, anyone could have access to this information. They talk about their earnings, they talk about the year they were established, which was 2001, and they are basically a commercial and industrial machinery and equipment rental and leasing company. That's what they do. And I think your interest was, to whom do they lease? I think that's what you were really asking. Perhaps I'm misreading you, but that's what I believe you're asking. And when you look at truckdriver.com DOT directory, it basically states that their cargo types are passengers and other, and under other they put movie production. So they do lease to the movie industry here. But because they are registered, they do, by the way, have a current occupational license that is in effect. It is current. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that they do pay an occupational license here in the city of Kenner. And as well, property taxes, of course, they pay to us. And when they lease equipment, you know, we also get some monetary benefit from that as well. So the city of Kenner is benefiting from this company being located here. I don't know if those are the questions you wanted answered, but if I didn't, just please contact me after this meeting and I'll get you some more information. Thank you, sir.
That's it. You're up. Put your cue on. Councilmember Carroll, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say a few words. Last Monday on the 16th, we again had the opportunity to celebrate Lundi Gras in the city of Kenner, and I would just like to thank, you know, all of the city departments, the administration, the mayor, for an event that each year, in my opinion, gets better and better. I have a number of friends in the Zulu organization, and they always tell me that, you know, coming to the city of Kenner, it is always done professionally. It is always done with great taste, to the point where sometimes I wonder in the back of my mind, you know, what did they expect? You know, I guess I take a little offense to it, but you know, I take it as a compliment that this is how we expect things to be in the city of Kenner, and we try not to second-rate anything. So, you know, it takes a lot of people to put all this together, and everyone who had a part in it, you know, from the people from the Zulu, and I'm sure Argus, that hopefully we can continue this celebration in the future and continue the way that the people of our city in New Orleans enjoy the celebrations. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilmember Carroll. Motion by Councilmember Reno, second by Councilmember Conley to adjourn.